Before a man ever becomes rich in his pocket, he must first become rich in his philosophy. Because the world has lied to you. It told you that wealth is a number, that money is the measurement, that your value is tied to your bank account. But wealth, real wealth, begins long before you ever see a dollar. It begins in your thoughts, your habits, your patterns, your mind. The man with no money but a wealthy mindset is only temporarily broke. But the man with millions and a poor philosophy is still bankrupt, just in disguise. You want more? You must become more. Because money doesn't make the man mindset does. You do not attract what you wish for, you attract what you are. And wealth is not something you chase, it's something you build from the inside out. It starts with a decision that says, I will no longer think like the broke. I will no longer live like the average. I will no longer operate from lack. Because poverty isn't just the absence of money. It's the presence of small thinking. You see, most people are not broke because they lack opportunity. They're broke because they lack vision. They are not poor because life is unfair. They are poor because their mind has accepted limitation as normal. They've memorized the script of struggle, internalized the voice of doubt, and built their habits around survival instead of expansion. But the moment you change the direction of your life, everything changes. Not your job, not your salary, your direction. Because it doesn't matter where you are if you know where you're going. And once your philosophy upgrades, your results begin to chase you. Wealth flows to identity. Prosperity is attracted to precision. Money finds the man who knows what to do with it. So don't start by chasing money. Start by building a home for it. Listen closely, this is the great secret. The wealthy don't get rich, then become different. They become different, and then they get rich. The broke ask, can I afford this? The wealthy ask, is this aligned with my values? The broke seek to spend. The wealthy seek to multiply. The broke look for wages. The wealthy build streams. The broke ask, what can I get away with? The wealthy ask, what value can I create? It's not about being smarter. It's about thinking strategically. The difference is not in the brain. It's in the mindset. You must retrain your internal thermostat. Because if you've been programmed to think small, you will sabotage anything that feels big. If you've been taught lack, you will reject abundance when it comes. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. And the wealthy? They raise their standards until the world has to respond. Real wealth is not something you earn, it's something you embody. It's when you become a person who is too valuable to be ignored. When you bring such excellence, such insight, such energy to everything you do, that life has no choice but to reward you. Because wealth is not given, it is drawn. You don't become wealthy by accident. You become wealthy by alignment, with your time, with your habits, with your purpose. You stop wasting hours on entertainment and start investing them in elevation. You stop numbing your dreams with distractions and start feeding them with discipline. You stop begging for blessings and start becoming the kind of person who creates them. Wealth is not a destination. It is the consequence of your growth. And when you grow big enough, rich enough, wide enough, in spirit, the material wealth shows up like a shadow. Write this on your soul. You cannot live above the level you believe you deserve. You cannot attract abundance while you secretly feel unworthy of it. And every time you accept less than your potential, every time you downplay your value, every time you settle for crumbsits, not humility, it's sabotage. Self-worth is the vault where all wealth begins. If you don't value your time, nobody else will. If you don't believe your voice matters, nobody else will listen. If you don't see your gift as powerful, no one else will pay for it. You must decide to be valuable. You must act like someone worth investing in. You must live as if your life is a business and you are both the CEO and the product. Because you are. And if you want others to invest in you, you better be the first one to do it. Raise your price to know just in dollars, but in decisions. Stop giving your time to things that don't pay you back. Stop selling your energy to people who don't respect your purpose. Stop renting your life out to mediocrity. Own it. Price it like it matters. Live like you are the asset. You are not chasing money. You are becoming the kind of person to whom money flows, because money moves by energy. It's not loyal to desire, it's loyal to value. It finds the disciplined. It honors the prepared. It obeys the mind that governs with clarity and purpose. And if your life is in disorder, your finances will reflect that chaos. If your thoughts are scattered, your results will be unstable. But when your mind becomes focused sharp like a blade, steady like a compass, everything begins to follow. Money follows order. Wealth follows design. You are the architect. Build with intention or drown in reaction. Success is not reserved for the lucky. It is engineered by the intentional. And if your daily life is not aligned with the wealth you say you want, then you are not chasing success. You're entertaining a fantasy. You cannot talk your way into abundance. You cannot wish your way into freedom. You must act, and act with precision. Every morning you wake up is a test. Will you build, or will you drift? Will you lead your day, or will your habits lead you back into the pit of average? There is no neutral ground. You are either rising or rotting. You are either stepping forward into growth or shrinking back into survival. The man who becomes wealthy does not wait for the perfect conditions he creates. The conditions through fire, through pressure, through vision enforced by discipline. He learns to move without applause, to grind without recognition, to build without guarantees, because he knows that greatness never arrives as a gift. It is earned through repetition. Wealth is not in the sprint, it is in the pattern. The micro decisions, the consistency no one sees, the focus no one applauds. Every book you read when the world is distracted, every workout you complete when your mind says rest, every late night spent creating when everyone else is consuming. That is the soil of greatness. That is the compound interest of character. And while others live for dopamine, you live for destiny. You must rewire how you see time. The broke sell time for money. The wealthy use time to create value. If you're always working for the hour, you are capped. You are chained to a system that can never reward you properly. But when you begin to build systems, solve problems, create things that live beyond the moment, you enter the domain of scale. And scale is where wealth lives. No more surviving. No more hoping. Build. Even if it's slow. Even if it's invisible. Because the man who plants with patience will one day harvest with abundance. And when that day comes, when you look back and see what you've built, you'll know it wasn't magic, it wasn't luck, it was the mind. It was the daily battle between your higher self and your excuses, and your higher self won. You don't rise when you feel ready, you rise when you decide that readiness is not required. The wealthy think in decades. They measure in legacy. They live in design. Every moment is leveraged. Every habit is intentional. Every conversation either builds them or gets cut off, because they know something the average man ignores. Energy is currency. And if you're leaking energy into people who don't grow you, into thoughts that don't serve you, into actions that don't elevate you, then you are stealing from your future to pay for your comfort. And that is a debt too expensive to carry. You must begin to treat your time like a vault. Every minute is an investment. Every morning is a battlefield. And if you let mediocrity through the door, even for a moment, it will unpack its bags and make itself at home. You must protect your mind like a fortress, not from the world, but from the old version of you that keeps trying to return. Because the greatest enemy of your wealth is not the economy. It's your former self. The one who made excuses. The one who procrastinated. The one who compromised. Kill that version. Bury it. Replace it with the architect, the strategist, the disciplined executor who no longer waits for miracles, but manufactures momentum with every move. You do not need motivation. You need a standard, a code, a ritual that turns your days into bricks and your habits into buildings. Wealth does not answer to dreamers. It answers to doers. And the doing is daily. It is silent. It is ruthless. There is no glamour in greatness, only repetition. Only the quiet power of showing up when no one claps. of mastering the boring things until they become beautiful. Because that's what wealth truly is, discipline disguised as destiny. And if you want to rise, you must redesign your environment. Audit the room you wake up in. Audit the people you call friends. Audit the apps on your phone, the food in your kitchen, the words you speak without thinking. Everything is programming you. Everything is building you or breaking you. Do not ask if it feels good. Ask if it serves the vision. If it doesn't cut it off, you are not here to be liked. You are here to be legendary. And legends are not built in comfort. They are built in fire. They are born in isolation, forged in rejection, and refined in discipline. While others laugh, you build. While others rest, you rise. While others talk, you do. Because you understand, the life you want is not waiting for you, it is waiting on you. You want more income? Raise your impact. You want better connections? Raise your integrity. You want deeper peace? Raise your standards. The internal controls the external. Always. You will not attract the life you want by remaining the person who keeps avoiding responsibility. Growth demands confrontation with yourself, with your patterns, with your apathy. The man you must become is not hidden from you. He is buried underneath you, under layers of delay, denial, distraction, and comfort. Peel them back. Face them. Because until you look yourself in the mirror and say, "No more," you will remain a prisoner in a cage whose door has always been unlocked. No one is coming to save you. And that's the good news, because it means you are free to save yourself, free to rise, free to decide that the story changes here, that the generational curse ends with you, that you will no longer pass on poverty, anxiety, scarcity, weakness, small thinking. You will pass on standards, you will pass on systems, you will pass on discipline. Because wealth is not about income, it is about influence. And if you don't have influence over your own decisions, you will never have true wealth, only noise, only motion. Only a life that looks full on the outside but is empty at its core. Reclaim your identity, not the one they gave you, not the one defined by your past, your culture, your mistakes, but the one defined by vision. You are not your trauma. You are not your failures. You are what you do next. And if you want to build wealth, stop studying money and start studying men who mastered themselves. Because self-mastery is the currency of kings. There is no such thing as a rich victim. The mindset of blame and the mindset of wealth cannot coexist. You must choose. You either build a case for your limits or you build a life beyond them. But you cannot do both. So strip away the story, the excuse, the entitlement. Get back to the truth. You have work to do, not just to increase your income, but to increase your capacity. Because money without capacity will only magnify your chaos. Money without identity will only accelerate your ruin. The greatest wealth is who you become while building it. The character you forge, the patience you develop, the courage you access when everything says quit and you refuse. That is wealth. That is freedom. That is what nobody can take from you. And once you build that, the money, the influence, the legacy, they will follow. Not because you chased them, but because you became the kind of person they were always looking for. Wealth does not respond to intention. It responds to alignment. You can want abundance all you want, but if your daily habits reflect chaos, your results will betray your desires. You cannot pray for prosperity and then spend like a fool. You cannot speak of discipline and live like a slave to impulse. The universe does not respond to what you hope for. It responds to what you honor. And you honor the future by the way you move in the present. Honor your time. Honor your word. Honor your energy. And watch how wealth begins to respond to you. Because energy is not just metaphysical, it's practical. The more you leak energy through bad habits, toxic people, and shallow consumption, the less capacity you have to receive the very blessing you claim you're preparing for. Preparation is not just journaling and affirmations, it's order. It's the financial clarity you've been avoiding, the tough conversations you've delayed, the email you need to send, the client you need to call, the business plan you keep rewriting instead of executing. Wealth doesn't flow to perfection. It flows to movement. Clarity creates motion. Motion creates momentum, and momentum multiplies into miracles if you stay the course. And staying the course, that's where most men lose. Not because they weren't capable, but because they weren't consistent. The enemy is not failure. The enemy is fatigue. The days when results don't match the effort. The days when nobody sees the grind. The days when you wonder if any of this matters. That's the war. And discipline is your only sword. But if you endure, if you remain, if you keep showing up when lesser men would fold, you will become inevitable. Not because you're faster, not because you're smarter, but because you simply refuse to quit. That's the trait every wealthy person shares. Relentless execution. They execute even when it's hard, even when it's dark, even when the numbers say no and the world says stop. Because they've learned to bet on the one variable they control, themselves. And so must you. This is not about making millions. This is about becoming someone who could. Because when you become that person, you realize it was never about the money. It was about the mission, the impact, the legacy. You were not born to live for weekends. You were born to become legendary. And legends are not remembered for what they earned. They are remembered for what they became. You do not need permission to rise. You never did. You were just waiting for someone else to believe in you more than you believed in yourself. But no more. The wait is over. You are not a child of circumstance. You are not a victim of economy. You are not a slave to your past. You are a force and you've been asleep too long. But now your eyes are open. And once you see truth, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to small thinking. You cannot go back to comfort. You cannot return to average. Because average is the enemy now. It is beneath you. It is the addiction you no longer feed. You have outgrown survival. You were made for dominion. But dominion doesn't come through dreaming. It comes through doing, through sacrifice, through standards, through a sacred refusal to participate in the patterns that destroy potential. If it weakens you, it's not part of your life anymore. If it delays you, it's not welcome. If it distracts you, cut it out. No negotiation, no compromise. Not because you're better than others, but because you're finally becoming better than your former self. Discipline is not a punishment. It is proof. Proof that you are serious. Proof that your future matters more than your feelings. Proof that you are not like the masses who wait for motivation like rain in the desert. You don't wait, you move. You don't hope, you build. You don't guess, you execute. Because wealth doesn't show up to the hopeful, it shows up to the ready. To the man who has been rehearsing excellence in silence. To the woman who has turned her pain into strategy, her wounds into wisdom. To the soul who chose to master themselves long before the world ever recognized them. You must be that soul. And no, it won't be easy. But that's the point. Wealth was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be earned. Not because money is the prize, but because the process forces you to become someone who can be trusted with power. Wealth will test you. It will expose your ego. It will reveal your fears. And if you do not build the character first, the money will magnify what you were too lazy to fix. So build the character, build the habits, build the rituals that shape you into steel. Because money without discipline is a disaster. But money in the hands of a wise, grounded, purposeful human, that's when the world changes. That's when wealth becomes legacy. And that legacy begins now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when the market changes, but now, in the smallest decision, in the quietest moment, in the place where no one sees, but everything is shaped. If you want the future to be different, the present must be disciplined. You cannot walk into abundance with a poverty routine. You cannot keep touching failure and expect success to show up. Wealth isn't a goal, it's a byproduct. It's what arrives when the internal becomes too strong to live in scarcity anymore. So, what must change? Everything that keeps you tied to the old version of you. Every habit that steals your time. Every voice that lowers your standard. Every excuse that lets you off the hook. This is a sacred war not with the world, but with your comfort zone. Because your comfort zone doesn't just delay your wealth, it destroys it. It convinces you that next week is a strategy, that one day is a plan, that maybe is a commitment. Burn it all, burn it down, leave no doorway back to mediocrity. Either you're building wealth or you're building regret. There is no middle. And don't get it twisted. Wealth is not just about having more. It's about becoming more focused, more generous, more disciplined, more dangerous in your ability to stay calm under fire, to build when others break, to think long when others chase short. The wealthy play the long game, and if you want to join them, you better get good at patience. Not passive waiting, active preparation. You plant, you prune, you water, you trust the seed. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You believe. Because belief is the engine. Belief in the process. Belief in the discipline. Belief in yourself, even when the numbers lie, the results stall, and the support vanishes. You are not building for applause. You are not building for likes. You are building for impact. For the day your family looks at the life you've created and knows this man broke the curse. This woman changed the bloodline. This legacy is here because someone had the strength to do what was hard not once but every day. And yes, there will be critics. There will be voices that mock your hunger, question your pace, misunderstand your mission. Let them. Their opinion is not your compass. Their noise is not your signal. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to be unshakable. And that unshakable version of you, the one who no longer apologizes for thinking big, the one who no longer hides from hard work, the one who no longer tolerates anything average, that is, who wealth has been waiting for. So rise. Not emotionally, not momentarily, but permanently. Rise into structure. Rise into clarity. Rise into unbreakable standards. Because when you finally become who you were designed to be, wealth will not be able to ignore you. It will chase you down. It will partner with your purpose. It will pour through your life like a river that never runs dry. Because wealth was never the destination. It was the confirmation that you became someone who could be trusted to carry greatness. You are not here to survive. You are not here to settle. You are not here to repeat the script of scarcity that was handed to you by culture, by fear, by history. You are here to break it, to rip the roots of lack from your soul and replace them with the steel of abundance, to stop renting a life and start owning it. Because wealth was never just about dollars. It was about dominion. It was about reclaiming your mind from fear, reclaiming your time from distractions, reclaiming your energy from anything that doesn't honor the future you're building. You now know the truth. You are not paid by the hour. You are paid by the value you bring to that hour. You are not defined by your past. You are defined by your pattern. You are not waiting on luck. You are shaping legacy. And legacy begins in the silence, in the quiet decisions, in the days when no one sees, but everything is decided. You are not just a person. You are a movement, a force, a walking standard. So raise your standards so high that mediocrity chokes in your presence. Speak with such clarity that excuses cannot breathe around you. Act with such precision that fear bows when you enter the room. Because you are no longer living like wealth is something you pursue. Now, you are living like wealth is something you attract. And you attract it by who you've become. So rise every day like you are the one who breaks the cycle. Walk like your last name depends on it. Build like generations are watching. Because they are. And one day when your children walk through the house you built, live in the freedom you forged, and speak the language of abundance you taught them, they won't remember every word you said, but they'll remember this. My father, my mother, they were different. They didn't wait. They didn't wish. They built. They bled. They rose. And because of them, we are free. This is the wealth. This is the fire. This is the beginning. And it begins, as it always has, in the mind. Success doesn't strike like lightning. It stacks like bricks, one at a time, quietly, without applause, without fanfare, without the world watching. It's not sudden. It's not random. It's not magic. It's math. It's repetition. It's routine. It's rhythm. You don't stumble into greatness, you construct it. Deliberately, repeatedly, relentlessly. And the ones who don't understand this truth spend their lives chasing the myth of sudden luck. They wait. They wish. They hope for a break instead of building a bridge. They want the rewards without the repetitions. But life doesn't work like that, because success is not an event. It's a habit. It's not a finish line you cross one day. It's a standard you live by every day. And the ones who rise, the real ones, they're not more talented, more connected, more fortunate. They're just more faithful to the process. Faithful to the reps when no one sees. Faithful to the hours that feel thankless. Faithful to the morning routines, the daily disciplines, the non-negotiables that don't need to be glamorous, just done. Because they understand. Discipline is destiny. And the most powerful person in the room is not the loudest, not the richest, not the most charismatic. It's the one who doesn't flinch. The one who doesn't fold. The one who does what they said they would do, especially on the days they don't feel like it. Discipline isn't about feeling motivated. It's about honoring the decision you already made long after the mood has faded. It's about moving from emotion to execution. Because if your life is driven by moods, you'll stay poor in every way. But if it's driven by mission, you become unshakable. The ones who win are the ones who outlast. Not the ones who have perfect days. The ones who show up on imperfect days. The ones who've trained themselves to do it anyway. When it's boring, do it anyway. When it's quiet, do it anyway. When it hurts, do it anyway. Because every day you show up, every time you follow through, every time you honor discipline over emotion, you are casting votes for a future that can't be denied. That's how success works. It doesn't come in one wave. It comes in layers. Each action stacking on the last. Each rep reinforcing your identity. Each step bringing momentum not in a surge, but in a slow, steady avalanche that one day becomes unstoppable. And when that day comes, the world will call it luck. They'll say, wow, it happened so fast. But you'll know the truth. It didn't happen fast. It happened daily. It happened in the dark. It happened in silence. It happened when no one was clapping, but you were still building. Because you understood success is repeated discipline, not sudden luck. And that truth, that's the key that separates those who wish from those who win. Because those who win don't gamble with their life, they guarantee it with their discipline. They don't wait for the right day, the right connection, the right alignment of stars. They become the alignment. They wake up and command their day, not react to it. They set the tone, set the pace, set the standard, long before results ever show up. Because they understand that results are delayed reflections of rituals. What you see in your life today was built by what you did consistently weeks, months, years ago. And what you will live tomorrow, it's already being written in the choices you're making right now. That is the law. Success doesn't come to those who are occasionally excellent. It comes to those who are consistently disciplined, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because discipline is not meant to make life easy. It's meant to make you stronger than life's weight. It's not punishment. It's protection from regret, from chaos, from the slow, quiet decay of potential wasted. And the beautiful thing is, it's available to everyone. You don't need a degree to be disciplined. You don't need money to be disciplined. You don't need permission or applause or approval. You just need decision. The decision to live by standards instead of emotion. The decision to lead yourself when no one is watching. The decision to be your own accountability. Because once discipline becomes your identity, not just something you do, but who you are, everything begins to shift. You eat differently. You walk differently. You speak with weight. You command respect without demanding it. You start attracting people, opportunities, and results that reflect the new level you're operating from. And it wasn't luck. It was discipline, stacked, sharpened, repeated. And the more you repeat it, the less you rely on motivation. You don't need hype when your system is built. You don't need external energy when you've internalized excellence. Your routine becomes your rhythm. Your standard becomes your structure. And that structure becomes your freedom. Because while the world chases quick fixes and shortcuts, you've built something that lasts. Something real. Something earned. And that kind of success, the kind built on discipline, is the only kind that doesn't get shaken when the world does. It's the kind that grows deeper under pressure. It's the kind that multiplies in silence. It's the kind that outlives you because it was forged in fire, not in luck, but in discipline every single day. And that kind of every single day discipline becomes your quiet superpower. You stop announcing what you're about to do because your actions are already saying it louder. You stop proving yourself because your consistency has already answered the question. You stop chasing the shortcut because you've fallen in love with the long game where mastery is built through monotony, where growth hides in the grind, where character is carved one decision at a time while the world is still asleep. You see, discipline doesn't just make you productive. It makes you predictable. And in a world full of flakes, that's power. When people know they can count on you, not sometimes, but always, you become rare. You become magnetic. You become the standard. Because there's nothing more powerful than a person who keeps their word, especially when that word is only to themselves. Discipline teaches you how to honor yourself. Not when it's flashy, but when it's quiet, when it's 4:45 a.m. and the bed is warm, but the gym is waiting. When it's hour 6 of deep work and your mind says pause, but your spirit says finish. When it's the 100th day of repetition and the 0th sign of progress, but you keep moving anyway. That's when the shift happens. Not in the results, in the wiring. Your identity rewrites itself. And you stop asking, how do I stay disciplined? You start declaring, this is who I am now. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your habits. So you make your habits unshakable. Because if success is the outcome, then discipline is the algorithm. Feed it correctly, and the output becomes inevitable. Ignore it, and you're left chasing miracles that never come. But when you respect it, when you obey the law of discipline, life bends. The invisible opens. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but with confirmation. Confirmation that the path works, that your repetition is not in vain, that the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices they're stacking, quietly, compounding, constantly. And one day they hit critical mass, and the world says, where did you come from? And you smile, because you never arrived. You were building all along. One disciplined day at a time. No luck, no lightning strike, just rhythm, just fire, just the sound of quiet greatness being forged in the background. And that sound, it's the sound of your future becoming present. That sound, the hum of steady discipline, becomes louder than your doubts, louder than your distractions, louder than the noise of the world telling you to slow down, to compromise, to blend in. Because now you're not chasing a dream. You're living as the kind of person who builds it. You're not hoping for success, you're hosting it. It shows up every time you show up. It multiplies every time you execute without emotion. It expands every time you say no to what's easy and say yes to what's required. Because that's the secret nobody wants to hear. The life you want is hiding behind the discipline you've been avoiding. It's not hiding in a new strategy, not in a secret formula, not in another self-help book. It's hiding in the repetition of the right thing done when you don't feel like doing it. Done when it's raining. Done when it's lonely. Done when it's thankless. Done when the world is clapping for everyone but